it's worth it for the view. It's worth it for the view. It's worth it for the view. Oh yeah, there's the view. Welcome to the channel. It is a beautiful day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. And I'm glad that you could join me. Welcome. So last videos, we've been working on that John Deere. I like to switch it up. I like to do something different. But to be honest with you, parts came in and I just want to finish that John Deere up. So I get to go hike back. It'll be nothing seconds for you. But for me, I get to go hike all the way back. But I'm glad you could join me on this beautiful view. I mean, it's great. I love it. It kind of makes you feel like everything's okay. So let's get back and I'll show you what I've been working on that John Deere L120. This is going to be fun. All right, this is what I have been up to. So I put a tube in that tire. So now both tires have tubes in them. And I pulled the deck off. That was pretty easy. It was a pin there, pin there, pin there, pin there, and a pin up front here. And then I threw the mower deck up here on some ramps. But before I pulled it all off, yeah, I kind of made a little belt route. So that way I make sure I get it right. And I looked into bearings, I looked into belts, I looked into everything, and here's what I came up with parts-wise, is I actually got a kit. It's like the cheapest one on the Jungle website, and it comes with the new tower, right? Comes with those two idler gears, or idler pulleys, and that one, that pulley. These ones we'll have to save over again, and it came with a belt, and it came with blades, and it just, even for me to individually buy this stuff, it was cheaper to get it all. And I know some of you are probably like, well, you should pull the bearings out and take the seal off so that way there's some lube that you can get in there and da. And honestly, you know, I've seen it on the internet a bunch where people are tearing apart these towers and taking the one seal, because it's a sealed bearing, taking the one side off so that way when you use the grease zerks to grease the shaft, you can get some grease to the bearings. But I've never had problems with bearings wearing out on mower decks. I don't know, maybe we'll have to look into it. So I was just going to throw them in how they are, and I guess if it becomes a problem, then we will deal with that later. So I got to try and get off these covers and start tearing it apart. So let's see how hard this thing comes apart. I'll first remove these guards and we'll go from there. All right, good news and bad news. Good news is 5 of the bolts came out. Bad news is that one is rusted in there and somebody had chunked out the guard to fit over that. And this one down in here, that one, yeah, that thing's rusted up on there too. So I'm gonna have to flip the deck up and probably use the torch to warm them up, because I hit them with PV Blaster and all that good stuff. So I'll flip it up, but since it's up, I might as well take the blades off as well. So let's get that flipped up and I'll hit it with the torch. All right, so got that bolt out, and got the blades off. And I know some of you are thinking, Kicks, you didn't need to take the blades off. And, you know, you're right, I didn't need to take the blades off. They come out this way. However, I kind of wanted to look at this a little better and just disassemble it. And in case I have to get a torch in here to these bolts, it'll just be easier to heat it up without the blades and stuff in the way. But check this out. So I thought it was bearings that were bad in here, and the bearings still could be bad, but look at this. Yeah, that's not the bearings that were causing that play. It actually is like the blade heads or whatever you call that the blades mount to. That's what was all checked up, and I mean, that's kind of crazy, but maybe I've never seen that happen before. This one is so rusted, that's the reason why that one felt tight. So, I mean, could we grind that out and weld it in? Yeah, I'm sure we could. It'd probably, or maybe it would be just fine, but I don't know. You would think that would cause some kind of crazy vibration. So what I need to do now is flip the deck back up here and start disassembling the stuff from the top, and so we can try and get those bolts out, but we might have to flip it over again and get torch, because this is pretty rusty. So let me get it flipped up how it's supposed to be. Ta-da! So if you were to do this by hand, you definitely will want to leave the blades on to try to break these loose with like a board like I had for doing that. But I'm going to use the impact, so I should be able to hold it here. So I need to save that one, and that guy over there. These ones they came with the kit, but I don't know if I can even get them off. They just have, yeah, well, we'll see. Let me take the impact of these and see if I can't get all of them off. That'd be nice, you know. Lord willing, we'll get them all off. They all came loose, except for this one. So took the bolt off, and it's just spinning. So I'm just gonna we'll just give it a little tacky poo, and to hold it there, so then we can take that off. Also, it looks like we're gonna need to use a puller to pull these off. So let me get that tacked up and get that off. Yeah, we'll just tack weld it, and we'll try and break that loose, and then I'll get out the puller and pull off these things. So it's more than probably basic hand tools to do this, but I mean, I have the tools, so let's just do it. So I'll weld that thing up. All right, so this is off. What I did was I had the torch out, so I just brazed it together, and this is loose and the nut came off, and now we're taking these off. And so what I came up with is this, and I put some nuts on the end, right? And we will just see, well, it worked on this one, so yeah, let's see how it works. That easy. So you could probably hit them with a hammer, I'm sure, on the bottom side, and they'd probably pop up. But I have this, so let's just do the last one, and then we can start tearing apart these, mower heads, the blade heads, and drop them down. And maybe. We'll see. Lord willing. They're pretty rusty, but let's take a look at it. All right, all of them are loose, off. So before I take them all off, so I can get to, the mower spindles, I'm going to write a T on top of every one of them so I know which way is top. They might be the same, they might not be, but I would rather know, so that way in the future, when we're putting it all back together with the new ones, if I have to do some measuring, I can do some measuring. All right, so I removed the bolts the fastest way I know possible. All of them broke except for those two. Every single other one just snapped. So what I'm going to do is see if I can't hit this and see if they can't fall out. I kind of want to save them in case I need to rebuild them, but they do need bolts extracted out of them. And yeah, if we have to get a little rough getting them out, that's how it is. Whack-a-mole! Whack-a-mole! Oh, that one's good. And Whack-a-mole. It's hitting the ramp, but whack-a-mole. Nice. All right, everything's all apart, and yeah, it just needs to go back together. All we need to remember is the greaser was facing that way, that greaser was facing that way, and this greaser was facing forward, so it's easier to, lube. But I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, now would be the perfect time to paint it because you got it all wiped down and cleaned up. And I like your thinking. I was thinking the same thing. However, I don't have John Deere yellow. I might be able to dig up some yellow, so let me see what I can find, and then we'll rebuild her a little bit. All right, I found some yellow. It's painted. It's dry. It looks nice. There's a shadow going right through there. And yeah, this isn't John Deere yellow. This is actually OSHA yellow. So you really don't need to worry about painting over the stickers and stuff, the warning labels, because, well, it's got all the safety. So let's see if we can't assemble this thing all back together the way it was. Boom. Nice. So these are all on. Everything worked great. I got to hand it to them that it's a Chinese product that came with SAE fasteners, so, no metric tools. And now I got to put the pulleys on the top of them, and these ones are full of dirt, dauber, nest, and rust. So I'm going to take them to the wire wheel and clean them up before I throw them on there. So let's get to that. Ka-cha! So they're all put on, they're all tightened. Here's a pro tip from a unprofessional, unpro. Here's a professional tip from a non-professional. Put your belt on here before you tighten these down, because it's a lot easier to work the belt around. So everything's there, everything's right. These are not whatever, it didn't matter which way they went on. I measured them just to make sure. So now all we have left to do is get the guards on and the blades. And oh yeah, one more thing. Hold on. I'll be right back. I'm back. Okay. I sprung for these. That's right, I broke the bank, but let's put these wheels on here too. So let me get that all put together. Blades, check. A little bit of clearancing because of that with the pliers, check. I mean, it would have self-clearanced itself, but it obviously at one point was hitting. So yeah, we did that. We'll just hit it with a little OSHA yellow, and now we can flip it back over and do the guards and give it a little grease and the wheels. Fun. All right, there we go. Brand new. I mean, I had to drill those out to 1/2 inch, but they look like they're nice, and everything's painted, looking good. Yes, I ran out of black. That's kind of green. But I mean, we don't go to town for a little bit of black spray paint. We can deal with that later. So now what I want to do before I slide this up underneath there is I would like to crawl underneath the tractor and just see about the fan. There's a fan on the rear end that cools it, and sometimes they're just shattered and gone, and I guess they overheat. I don't know. I want to look at that first. So let's get underneath the tractor. All right, I'm underneath this thing, and if we look up here, yeah, all the fan blades are gone. Nice. Well, we'll have to order that up, but we can still test it and see how it mows and everything without that. And yeah, well, first thing we need to do is get it running. So let's throw the mower deck back on here, and then let's tear into that motor, putting the push rod in there and all that jazz. And then I'll have to see if I can get one of those on order, and then we'll deal with all of that. But at least we know. And well, it's better to know now than, the middle of summer when you're mowing. All right, hood's off. It was just, spring was here, and a spring was here, and then, unplug the headlights that don't work on this thing, and it just fell off. So we need to get into here where the push rod is, or isn't, where the push rod isn't. But I think I'm going to take this cover off. Looks like it's like 5 or 6 bolts. and we'll take that cover off, you know, all that jazz. Just because a lot of times the reason why that valve seat sticks or the guide sticks and all that is because these motors overheat. And I know they were probably beating on it. If you look at the way the shape of the deck was, the spindles of the mower blades were just trash, like they were smashing over rocks and stuff. And I mean, even this is all just beat up and tweaked, so they're ramming into things. The hood's, you know, bent and cracked, and so I don't think it had much maintenance. So I'm going to take this all off and see if there isn't any bunch of mouse houses down in there. So let me get that off and see what we're dealing with there, and then we can go and work with that and see what we need to do. All right, time for the big reveal. Not that bad. Well, yeah. Wow, I really expected it to be packed full of all kinds of gross things, but there's no mouse houses or anything in here. So I guess let's get that valve cover back off and see what we're dealing with, because that's really not all that gross. Huh. I thought for sure that thing would be full, but well, let's get that valve cover off and see what we can do. All right, valve cover is back off, and it didn't fix itself while we were gone. So I guess we didn't luck out there. But I had a subscriber who, well, a viewer at least, who said that it looked like when I hit this with the drift that the valve guide was stuck in there, and it actually popped it back into place, because now it moves just fine. So I looked into that, and I got to say, thanks, Eric. Thanks, Eric, for giving me that tip, because, I mean, I didn't see it, but he saw it. So, and that is one of the problems with these Briggs motors. The thing that is concerning me right now is the fact that there is no metal in here at all. Like, at all. And, well, I'll go get the new push rod and the old push rod, and you can see how much metal there should be in here, or aluminum that should be in here. And I mean, not a piece didn't fall out when we took it apart. Nothing. So let's go get that. Let me show you that. Okay, so here is the new push rod. It is aluminum, or aluminium, as some people say. And here's the old one. If you look, you know, it's missing like an inch off of it, and it was broken off, right? Not so much ground. It got some grinding too. But when we did the oil change, we didn't have any chunks in there, and there was nothing in that valve cover. What I did was I cut open and made a huge mess the oil filter. Let's just get these clean objects out of the way. So I don't see any metal whatsoever in this oil filter. Let me get the light and I'll shine it in. All right, so there is nothing sparkling at me. I even, you know, down in here, just there's nothing. There's nothing in here. So the only thing that I can think of is someone had removed that valve cover and pulled that piece out and then did an oil change on it. I mean, because literally there is nothing down in here. Like, there's nothing. So my guess is somebody did an oil change on it, put a new filter on there, and I guess ran it. I don't know, or that's because they didn't say anything about that when they threw it back there. They said it was following out plugs. When we got out of the weeds, they said it was following out plugs. So that's strange to me, unless I really don't know. I don't know. I guess we'll never know. So let's go and look at what we're going to do about that valve guide to maybe fix it. I don't know. Let's take a look at some ideas. All right, so if we look in here, kind of where my pick is, there's a seal here, and then there's behind it, kind of brass looking maybe, is valve guide. And so what happens is the motor heats up, the aluminum and the brass or whatever alloy that's made out of don't expand at the same rate. So when you get these things overheated, the valve guide sticks and slides out, and then your valve is stuck. So the fix that everybody's doing for it is to pull the head off and drill a hole in the valve, like the passage, the outside passage for it, right? And then put a set screw into it to hold this from moving when the motor gets too hot. My thought is, rather than taking the head, replacing it, the $10 head gasket, spending all that money and time and effort, let's see if we can't do it the lazy way. How about if we use the Kix Bryant diamond braided poly clothesline? I think I need to do another infomercial on this. Let's take the spark plug out. Maybe we can get away with filling the cylinder with clothesline, and then we can take this spring, the keepers, take the spring off. It'll still hold the valve up so it doesn't fall into the combustion chamber. And then where the aluminum is mated with the valve guide, let's just stake it like you would a bearing that's spun. I mean, what could possibly go wrong, right? And we'll, I mean, what could possibly go wrong? The worst thing happens, we have to take the head off, which we would have had to do anyway. So let's give that a try, and then let my mistakes help you in the future. Well, the Kix Bryant clothesline worked wonderful for holding valves, or maybe we should think of a new name for it. Anyways, it's in there. I just used the pick and kept pushing it, and so if we go to the valve here, you cannot push it. It is solid. I just turned the flywheel right, so it pushed it up to compression stroke, and yeah, it's not going anywhere. So now all we need to do is just push the spring down and take the keepers out. So let me get a little magnet and get that spring off of there. With our fingers, we'll just push it and see if we can't. Oh. There's one. And there is two. Sorry for the bad shot, but that's the way I had to hold it, I guess. And valve's off. And it doesn't move. So my idea is staking the aluminum around here just to push some more material in there to make it a little bit tighter and see if that doesn't maybe hold it better. It looks like this guide is kind of farther, so I took the other valve cover off, and nope, that's where the other one's sitting at too. So now my thought is I could take like that and just give it a little love and kind of distort that aluminum to hold it tighter. And I mean, we're not going to go crazy. We're not going to crack the aluminum, but maybe we can just give a few divots all the way around it and see if that won't help hold this in place better. So yeah, I'll do that, and then well, yeah, let me do that. All right, there you have it. So just went around it. You know, it should theoretically, pushing that material towards it should make it tighter. So now this kind of got a little bit loose, but the valve still has play in it. If I can't push the spring on far enough, I'll have to jam some more rope in there, or, you know, turn the flywheel. So let me just get this all reassembled with our new push rod, rocker, everything, and well, we'll see. Well, we'll have to adjust it, right? And then we'll see if this thing will run better. I didn't think it ran bad before until I found that. So, and it should mow because the deck's all good to go. Yeah, let me get this all put back together. All right, valve spring is back on. So now let's pull out our tool, our Kix Bryant valve holding spring tool. There we go. Out. And it's a lot harder to push now with the springs on it. There we go. So let's get the push rod and the rocker arm back on. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. It worked. All right, it's all back together. I had to adjust this thing way out to even get it to not press down the valve when I was just tightening down the center bolt. So it's everything I've read on these says 5 to 7 thousandths. That one is a little loose. This one, yeah, that's about 7 thousandths. So maybe we could tighten it up a hair. And yeah, so you just adjust this, right? Put a wrench on here, boom, and take your Torx and tighten it down the center until you get, well, I'm going to shoot for 6, but yeah, I'm going to shoot for 6. So let me get these tightened down. I'm just going to, because this is at top dead center, I made sure it was at top dead center so I could do them both. And then I'll go over to the other cylinder and I will do the same thing. And let's see if then we can't see how it works. But everything feels good. So I don't know. It might be all right. Let me get these adjusted and see. All right, that side is perfect. Now we went over here, top dead center on this side. We can probably look down in here, maybe, yeah. And you can see my feeler gauge, and I didn't even have to touch this side. It's perfect. So let's put the valve covers on. I'm gonna get out a vacuum cleaner and air hose and just clean some of these dirt dauber nests out of here, and then we can put it all back together and see if it will run. Yay! All right, 2 new spark plugs gapped at 30 thousandths, and we are ready to put the cover on, and then we're ready to mow. Let's give this thing a shot. Well, here's the part of the video where I was gonna get the John Deere out and, you know, mow all this down to test it out. However, it started downpouring, and you can see from all these mud puddles, it is nothing but mud. So not good mowing weather, and we're in a little break now, but there's just storms to come, so it doesn't look like it's going to dry up or anything like that. However, you know, Proverbs 16 verse 9 says, a person may plan his path, but the Lord directs his steps. So let's go back up onto the tractor and just see how it runs. I haven't even started it up, so let's see how it runs now that it's all back together and has the new push rod in it. And, you know, see if it runs decent, I guess. All right, covers are back on. I think give it a little choke maybe, and let's see how this thing runs. Maybe no choke. Oh, it didn't even need any choke. But no choke before it needed choke. Wow, yeah, that thing runs really good, and this is why I stopped it. Oh yeah, look at that. So, yeah, that cylinder definitely was not firing before because it is smoking all the rust and stuff off of there, whereas this side is not. So, well, she's firing on this cylinder now. I guess we'll have to just see. So that may be why I was kind of seeing smoke. Well, obviously, that is why I was seeing smoke. So, hey, that's a pretty good deal. I guess we'll have to let it run a little bit and just burn all that off and keep an eye on it without the hood on there. So, fix. Mower deck looks nice. Yeah, this is all cleaned up. That's looking like a decent motor now. So I guess there's not much left to do. I ordered that fan, but I got to get this video edited for you guys and get it out. So yeah, I mean, I think we're at about $350 for this entire setup, if you count that $150 cost for this, even though, you know, we got all the stuff with it. But if you count this at $150 plus the parts we put in, well, here, I'll put it up on the screen. It was like $350, but I'll total it up and we'll put it here. I'll put it on screen right now. Wow, only $345? That's amazing! For a piece of scrap that was in somebody's backyard. Tractors around here are going like this, I think I've said before, like $500-600. So, I mean, $345, that's not bad. And the tractors for $500-600 most likely don't have rebuilt decks and, you know, engine work done to them and all that stuff. So, yeah, till next time, thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and remember, be blessed. Peace.
Welcome to my nightmare.
Wow, only $345? You must be crazy not to do that.